Welcome to my fun little video. This is a cute, short, maybe informative, I don't know, perhaps video about the stomach acid. Hydrochloric acid that is produced within the body to break down foodstuffs, denature proteins, and allow our body to reuse the materials that we ingest. We're also going to talk about some of the other major cell types found within this system. So, hydrochloric acid, it's produced in the stomach by the parietal cells. These are cute, fun little guys that like to produce some absolutely face-melting acid to help us break down the things that we eat. Now, hydrochloric acid, of course, consists of a hydrogen and a chloride bonded together. You might be wondering, wait a minute, where does this hydrogen come from? What the heck? Where does this chloride come from? Sorry, my oven's going off. Well, that was distracting. Anyways, the hydrogen comes from the bicarbonate system within the parietal cell. As it denatures, it produces the hydrogen ion, which we will talk about later. And the chloride, well, those little dandies, they come from the blood. So these hydrochloric producing parietal cells have within them the bicarb buffer. And the bicarb buffer is broken down, denatured with the help of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. So once it is broken down, we're left with two products. We have the hydrogen ion, and we have the anion, HCO3. So right now, hydrogen just kind of chilling in the parietal cell. It doesn't know what it wants to do with its life. It's kind of lost. It's definitely lonely. So what does hydrogen do? Well, he goes to talk to his uncle, Uncle ATP. And Uncle ATP is going to help hydrogen. He's going to push hydrogen out of the parietal cell and into the gastric lumen because Uncle ATP has it on good authority that maybe, just maybe, chloride is going to hook up with them there. I don't know, he's seen it happen before or something, I don't know. So as hydrogen begins its great exodus into the gastric lumen, searching for maybe, possibly, just a little love, I don't know. There's a little sneak. There's a little sneaky guy that sneaks into the parietal cell as hydrogen is leaving. Potassium. Potassium comes into the parietal cell as hydrogen leaves, and everyone's like, wait a minute, who are you? Oh, you're the banana guy. Yeah, okay, makes sense. You're the banana guy, great. But it turns out potassium is more than the banana guy. No, potassium is there because he helps to maintain the electrical neutrality of the parietal cell. But potassium, he doesn't take this sort of criticism lightly. He's hurt, and understandably so, right? He's more than the banana guy. So later, he leaves the parietal cell, and he's pumped back out. But once again, he proves how much of a great guy he is because, indeed, potassium is needed for the functioning of the ATP-powered pump that ejects the hydrogen from the parietal cell in the first place. So potassium is really the hero here, and he just deserves more than just being the banana guy. So as all this is going on, in the background, we still have this bicarbonate buffer being dissociated within the parietal cell. And this increases the amount of the anion HCO3. It's increasing within the parietal cell. There's so many of them. What does this do? Well, this HCO3 is also useful because it helps the parietal cell to power the facilitated portal. This facilitated portal, it uses something called secondary active transport. So, HCO3 builds up, gets kind of bored of the parietal cell, it leaves the cell. As it leaves the cell, the chloride enters. The chloride enters into the parietal cell. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh boy, it is getting juicy now. So, as the HCO3 leaves and the chloride enters via the mechanism of secondary active transport, we're gonna get a lot of chloride within that parietal cell. Maybe a little too much. Yeah, so once there's too much chloride within the parietal cell and the concentration reaches a threshold point, it wants to leave. It's got to get out of there. All the other chlorides are kind of, jamming everything out. There's no room. There's nowhere to move. So what does it do? Well, it's simple. It moves along down to the apical membrane of the parietal cell, and it's ejected from this parietal cell via the facilitated transport. And of course, as mentioned, chloride does this because it wants to move from an area of high concentration to low. But wait, chloride is now in the gastric lumen, and hydrogen from earlier is in the gastric lumen, so they should just meet up. And that's what they do. And oh God, yeah, it produces acid. It's gross. And anyone who has watched the film Jurassic Park knows that there is a scene where a dinosaur spits acid at someone's face and it melts. So we know acid is scary, and we know it burns through things and destroys stuff. But why doesn't it destroy the stomach? How is the stomach protected from its own acidic contents? Well, there are these things called the mucous neck cell. And the mucous neck cell secretes a bicarbonate-rich mucus containing high amounts of mucin. And this protects the stomach from the acid in the lumen, fiddling with the pH and protecting the epithelial cells from being eroded and rotted away. So the question remains, wait a minute, why don't I just vomit all of this stuff out, get it out of me? I don't want acid in me. I'm not some sort of monster dinosaur from Jurassic Park. I don't want acid in me. Well, you shouldn't do that because that would actually be very bad for you. You see, if you were to chronically vomit, this would lead to a condition called metabolic alkalosis. So as you're ejecting all of these hydrogen ions out of your body, the pH is rising, and your blood level is becoming more alkalotic, aka more base. This is similar to if you were to drink bleach, which you should also not do because that is not compatible with life, and do not do that. So in the final section of this video, we're just going to talk about the other major cell types that are found within the gastric pits. And the gastric pits haven't been mentioned yet, but the gastric pits are where the hydrochloric acid erupts out of like a volcano of acid, because that's what they are. It's a literal volcano of acid that is inside your stomach, and I can prove it, and I will. There's a paper coming out next week, and it is not peer-reviewed, but that doesn't matter because it's a paper, so it has words on it. So besides the parietal cell, as mentioned before, we have the surface mucous cell. And the surface mucous cell secretes mucus onto the epithelium of the stomach. And this helps with the churning of food and the movement of the lumen, I'm sure, amongst other things, of course. The mucous neck cell, as we mentioned before, it protects the body from the acid that it produces. The chief cell, this is very important. The chief cell is responsible for secreting the enzymes of the stomach. Two important enzymes that it releases are pepsinogen, which breaks down large proteins, and gastric lipase, which breaks down fats. So the chief cell is important in the breakdown of foodstuffs. Lastly, we have the G cell, which secretes the hormone gastrin. Gastrin is used to regulate the activities of the stomach in general. It does many things, indeed. Gastrin is activated when there is food present in the stomach. So it identifies this by reacting to pH changes caused by undigested food. Gastrin inspires many things to change, indeed. It increases the activity of the parietal cell and chief cells, for example. It leads to the tightening of the lower esophageal sphincter to prevent the hydrochloric acid from entering the esophagus. It increases gastric motility, which is the process of utilizing the stomach muscles to churn the food stuff to emulsify it. And it relaxes the pyloric sphincter to begin accepting the chyme produced in the stomach into the duodenum of the small intestine. So, that was a quick rundown of some of the other cells, and that is the conclusion of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.